Once again, I welcome you guys to the Make IT Simple YouTube channel. Again, this video is related to an important topic in ReactJS. In this video, I will explain about what is UseContext and how to use that in React hooks. The pre-requirement for the video to understand is basic of React with hooks concept. Before getting into the actual topic, let's see about the existing issue. In a typical React application, we have many components inside the parent components. So the data is passed from the top down, like parent to child, via props. But such usage is awkward for certain types of props and it is overhead for us. So context provides the way to share the values between the components without having to explicitly pass a prop through every level of a tree. From the React official page, the context is termed as context provides a way to pass the data through the component tree without having to pass the prop down manually at every level. Now we will focus on how to use the UseContext works on the programmatically. So let's get into the demo. Before starting the UseContext, let's first understand how to make the data available from parent to child components using the prop attributes. We will then introduce the UseContext hook to the component to understand its impact. And this is my basic React code that was created through Create React app. And it was running in here and just some basic application only, that's it. First, let's see like passing the data to child components without UseContext. For that, what I'm going to do is like I'm just going to create a state object in my parent component that will contain some specific employee details. So what I'm going to do is like I'm just going to create an object, state object. So use state statement, that's it, and we'll be making as var. And what I'm going to do is like user details. I make it as user details, and this one is set user details, and it's an object, right? So what I'm going to do is like I'm just making use of kind of an object, and here I make use of one type name, and I'll be making as Karthik, that's it. And one more is age, that's it, 32, and I'm closing this one. And now I created this state object. Now I need to pass this to the child components. For that I'm going to create a child components. So I'm going to create a new file called child components, components.js. That's it. And what I'm going to do is like I'm just going to create a function of child components. That's it, child components. And what I'll do is like I'll just use a return statement, return, and here just a simple div with some header components like h1. And here what I'm going to do is like I'm just typing as child components, child component. That's it. And if you see here, the employee details I added here, like some specific to user details, right? And I'm not using this one in parent component, but I might be using in the child components. So for that I create a child components over here. And again, now I need to pass the data, right? For that, what I'm going to do is like I need to use this data to here. For that, I'm going to import it, the child components, import from /source. I created child components, this one, so I make use of the child component here, that's it. And I'm just calling the child component and closing it, that's it. And again what I'm going to do is like I'm going to create a subchild from again here and name it as subchild component.js, components.js. Again same thing, I'll make use of it, but I'll rename it subchild, and again this is subchild component, that's it. Now what I'm going to do is like, and this is the child to this child component, the subchild component is child to child component. Again I am going to import this one here, import asterisk from slash source and the subchild components, and from here I'll be using of subchild components. That's it, and I'll be calling this over here subchild components, and I'm saving it here and running it. Let's see, and it says like the model is not imported. Okay, yeah, what I need to do is like I need to export it. Okay, so export default child components, something similarly over here, export default and subchild components. I'm exporting it. That's it. If I refresh this page, and you can able to see it over here, and this, so up to this one, this is my parent component, this is my child component, and this is my subchild component, and this is a spelling mistake, me and t, and similarly here, yeah, that's it. Yeah, here what it did is like I create a child component, and from that it will have some subchild component. That's it. But here still we didn't access the data, like the data we created, right, that user specific details as a state object. So we didn't access this data in the child components. So for that, what you need to do is like if you want to access the data in the child components, which is available in the parent component, that is this employee details, this user details, like user details, right, I need to pass the data through props. Let's see how to do that. So in the app.js, right, what I'm going to do is like I need to create a props over here. So user details, I need to pass the value, this value user details, the state object. That's it. So now it will be available over here. Again, I need what I need to do is like I need to create a props over here as an object variable. That's it. And again, this child components, right, this child components need to further pass this data to the to its child components, which is the subchild components, where it is going to display the data finally. So again, what I'm going to do is like again I'm going to pass this value from here. So from this child components, again I'm creating the object or props, I can say user details, and here from the props I need to send it down, props dot user details. That's it. I'm saving it. Again I'm make use of props over here, and inside this what I'm going to do is like I'm just giving with some header function, header HTMLs like h4, and similarly what I'm going to do is like I'm just going to print some value, user name, and for that I just get the value from this props, the props dot, the props name is, we are sending as user details, and here the name, from that name I need to get it, name. Similarly another one is age, right, so again age, the age name we will be sending it, again I'm printing it over here, just age. That's it. Now I'm going to refresh this page. See here the child components, I'm getting the value printed over here. So the state object, whatever I added in the parent component, I am not using it over here, and then I just passed the prop to child components. Again it is not using it over here. Again I am passing the data as a props to the subchild components, because I am here only, I am finally displaying the data over here. So displaying here like this, right? So what is the problem with this above code, or what is the problem with this code? So the main problem is like the state data, what I defined over here, right, this user detail, the state data I defined at the top level, it is passed to the child components where the data is getting over there, but the data is passed as a props data. The props data has no impact over here because the child component doesn't have any impact, but the child components need to maintain this props here. It is need to maintain this props. It's just a kind of an overhead. Similarly, this child components, right, again it further passes the props data to the subchild components. Again this child components here need to maintain this props and all. So again, if you are think about like you are having like around 10 components, means we need to explicitly pass all these props, even those components doesn't make use of it. Only to make the data available to the hierarchy, we are just passing the props, passing the data as a kind of props. It's just a kind of an overhead for us. I hope you are able to relate the problem with passing as a props, because if you are using like 10 components, means we don't want to send the data to the hierarchy using the props, even though they are not using that data in that particular component, we are sending as a props, right? So we don't want to make use of that. So in order to resolve the specific problem of passing props data, even though the component are not using, right, that we can make use of context API. Let's recreate this same example with the context API and see the difference. In order to achieve that, what we can do is like we'll be first creating the context object. Context object we can create it using react.createContext. For that, what I'm going to do is like I'm just creating a context object with constant, and the context object I can name it as user details context with react.createContext. That's it. So I can pass as null as a parameter, and that's it. We created the context now. So once this object is created, right, with the create context, we will then use this context object on the top level of this component. This is my component, right? On the top level, I can make use of it, and we will add that required data throughout the hierarchy. So what I can do is like I'm just adding it over here, and I'm adding this context user details context dot provider, and just make use of value as an attribute, just saving it, and I will be closing this one over here at the end after the div. That's it. Now this user details dot provider, right, it's used for providing the value to the context object whatever we created. The created object is user detail context. So the object that needs to be added is provided to the value attribute here. So we need to pass the value. So I'm just passing this user details over here. That's it. So in this code, what I did is like we have created a context object using this user details, using this react.createContext, and the object name is user details context, and we are adding the state data to the context in the parent component. So in the parent component, nothing but the app.js. Since the data is added to the context provided in the component, any component in the hierarchy will have access to the context data. Next, what I do is like I want this data, I want this user details data to be accessed to the child components, which is the subchild components, without passing to the prop data. In order to access the data in the subchild components, what I need to do is like I need to access the context created in the top level component, and I can access the data in the context. So this context data, right, I can be added at the top, added on the top component, and can be accessed by its subchild component using the UseContext keyword. So what I can do is like the subchild, right, I need to import that, I need to import this user details context, and I can make use of it. So I'm just importing it over here, and similarly import asterisk from /source/app.js, and here I need to import it, right? So I will make it as on the top level and exporting it. So I just export it, and I'll be making as import over here, and that's it. Now what I'm going to do is like, as I said, right, the use context keyword, and here inside this I'm just make use of where user details I can make use of context data equal to, I can make use of react.useContext. So use context, I can call that whatever the object we are imported over here, this user details. Just if I click F12 means it should go over there. Yeah, going over there, and that's it. Now once this context data is retrieved over here, right, in the subchild component, we can use this as for the data that is added to the component on the top level and can be accessed like this. So this context data dot name and context data dot age. That's it. So in this code we use this use context keyword, right? It will make that parent component data available to the child component at any level in the hierarchy without exposing as props data. So what I'm going to do is like I'm just removing all the props. So this is one of the props, right? I'm just removing this props. Again, I'm removing this attribute over here. Again, here we are not using the props, but here passing it, right? I am removing it, and similarly I don't want these props. So I'm saving it all the places, just saving it, and if I refresh this page means we'll see, and it says like React is not defined in which places, subchild components. So okay, I need to import it the React like this. I'm just copying this one I need to import it. I don't want this use state, so removing it. If I refresh it, see, again it will be displaying the same, but in this time what you're doing is like we are not passing this parent data object, that is the state object, with the help of props, because if we are passing the props means even though the data is not usable over here, we need to pass it to the subcomponents. It's a kind of an override for us. So by make use of use context, we just created an object and we added as a value to this provider, and any subchild components we can make use of, we can retrieve the value using this use context keyword. So use context is an amazing way to remove the overhead of passing the data via the props to the different levels in the hierarchy, even if it is not required. So in this video I explained about what is the purpose of use context and how to make use of it. If you have any doubts on implementing this, just add in the comment section. I'll be very happy to help you guys. Thanks for watching my video. Have a good day.